The time is now for us to call the meeting to order. So let's get started. We've got two papers. Paper 01 is business to be taken care of in future. And then for 02, it's about items that need to be followed up on. We now ask the officials to come in. Our next scheduled meeting is for June 10th. It's a Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. And the administration has proposed the two following items for discussion. First, recreational agriculture and fisheries industry. So this is item 1 on items to be discussed. And then the second item proposed for discussion, which is also item 2 on items to be discussed in the future, is the overview of food industry. Have you got any comments on this, members? We understand that for this panel, there are items that need to be discussed annually. For instance, pest control and cats and dogs control, and also food safety and so on and so forth. And there are more and more incidents happening in our community. And so I don't know whether certain items can be dealt with in writing rather than for discussion, because it seems that all of the items that are on the table or in the pipeline have become regular annual items for discussion. We have not enough time for that. Administration, of course, we welcome your comments, and we of course welcome any opportunity to discuss relevant items with you. If there are no other views, so next month we'll discuss the aforesaid two items. And item 3 on the agenda, quarantine arrangements for imported cats and dogs and introduction of ISO microchip. And we have until 3:30 to discuss this. It's paper 223, bracket 03. And 03 is from the administration, and 04 is from the Legislative Secretariat, which is a background brief. And this item is related to a legislative proposal. And other members not on this panel from the council are also invited to come along to discuss this item. And if you wish to speak, please press the item in front of you. And we ask the officials to first of all walk us through the paper. Thank you. So here today, we are to talk to you about quarantine arrangements for imported cats and dogs and introduction of ISO microchip. And the major purpose for quarantine arrangements for imported cats and dogs is to prevent the spread of rabies into Hong Kong and to safeguard the health of local population, human population, as well as animal population. And at the same time, we want to facilitate owners of animals to bring animals into Hong Kong. And that is why the AFCD has come up with optimized measures to fine-tune the scheme. And in accordance with the latest risk control assessment results, a Category 3A has been newly created. And the quarantine period under this newly revised scheme is to be reduced from 120 days to 30 days, and Macau and Lithuania have been included in Cat 3A. And also, we are in very active discussion with the mainland so as to facilitate the addition of mainland into Cat 3A and to facilitate animal owners direct to bring animals into Hong Kong. And I'm very happy to announce that starting from June 3rd, as long as quarantine arrangements have been satisfied, the quarantine period for animals from mainland will be reduced from 120 to 30, and the FCD will release further details. And we have also expanded quarantine facilities for imported cats and dogs, and we are encouraging private sector to provide additional such facilities. And as for ISO microchip, the FCD is proposing that ISO chip be added to the current AV microchip mechanism and regime. And the panel has also asked for further information on combating illegal importation and sale of cats and dogs and pet dogs entering food premises, and relevant information is now appended. And now I ask Assistant Director from AFCD, Vet Officer Dr. Sid, to walk us through the specifics under this proposed scheme. I just want to say that we've got 9 members that pressed the button indicating they wish to speak. And so please be really brief with your introduction, and please do not take as long as 30 minutes to walk us through your introduction, because we want to save as much time as possible for questioning. Thank you. Concerning the quarantine arrangements for importation of cats and dogs, and this is to prevent rabies from causing mortalities to human and animal population. In the world, every year 60,000 people die of rabies. And to protect the health of public and animals, we've got several pieces of legislation to control the importation of animals. At present, places all over the world have been grouped in any one of these 3 categories. Group 1 includes rabies-free places. Group 2 includes places where rabies cases are few and under effective control. And if rabies is not under control in a particular territory, then it's Group 3. At present, the quarantine period for that is 120 days. However, with the introduction of new 3A, it will be reduced to 30 days, starting from December last year. And Cat 3A is for places that can prove that there are effective and valid health certificates and vaccination certificates against rabies, and also certificates for neutralizing antibody titer test. Then Cat 3A territories will be eligible for 30 days quarantine instead of 120. And we have already written to Group 3 places that have frequently exported cats and dogs to Hong Kong in the past 5 years to introduce the latest quarantine arrangements in Hong Kong, and has invited them to provide information for risk assessment. And at present, the mainland, Macau as well as Lithuania, have been included in Group 3A, and we have also increased quarantine facilities. The new Kowloon Animal Management Center will come on stream in May, and the number of quarantine facilities for cats and dogs provided AFCD will increase from existing 21 and 20 to 34 and 30. And we also encourage private animal welfare organizations to provide quarantine facilities. And the Hong Kong Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals is now under application to provide such a facility. We hope that it will come online very soon. The second issue, it's about ISO microchip. And the relevant legislation says that local dogs are required to be microchipped and also to be vaccinated against rabies. And Schedule 3 of the regulation under the ordinance says that AVID microchip has to be used. And with the legislative amendment, we are now proposing that ISO formatted microchip with 15-digit will be added to the regime, while at the same time not disposing with the AVID microchip. And also the Hong Kong specific code is exempted. And also we will exempt dogs that have been ISO microchipped to be imported into Hong Kong. And we hope that in due course we'll be able to phase out AVID microchip. And we have informed and consulted relevant stakeholders, including licensed animal traders, animal welfare organizations, pet transport agents, vet clinics, animal organizations on the legislative amendment proposal, and the trade is generally supported. We hope that in Q3 of this year we'll be able to implement the revised scheme. Mr. Luke, Mr. Stanley Lee, Mr. Chan Chun Ying, Mr. Yang Wing Kit, Mr. Stephen Ho, Mr. Chan Hoi Yan, Madam Chan Hoi Yan, and Mr. Yim Kwong, and Madam Jo Fee Chan, and Mr. Leung Man Kwong. Each of you will have 4 minutes. Mr. Benson Look first. First of all, I'd like to thank the director for bringing to us a piece of good news. Mainland cats and dogs are now included in Cat 3A of the revised scheme, meaning that they won't be subject to a 120-day quarantine, but 30-day. And this is, of course, a good thing because 120-day quarantine is really a very harsh trial for both the owners of the animals as well as the animals themselves. And also the quarantine cost for 120-day quarantine is $10,000 at least. And so we are very grateful that the administration has included mainland into Cat 3A. Of course, this is a very welcomed new measure. But I think many talents that are due to come to Hong Kong are asking the question, and they want to really see further reduction to the 30-day quarantine. Because of, at the same time, of course, we don't want to see the health of local and human and animal population being compromised. And so, is it possible for you to break the entire mainland down into various parts where parts with better control can be upgraded in terms of their categorization? And also, you are expanding your quarantine facilities, expanding the number of facilities from 2021 to 30, and so on and so forth. I understand that there are long queues for quarantine facilities for cats and dogs, and sometimes the waiting time is as long as 6 months. So my question is, after the new facility has come online, to what extent would it shorten the waiting time in the queue? So regarding the waiting time for quarantine facilities, I asked Dr. Chung to give you the answer. As for whether we can further reduce the quarantine period from 30 days, indeed, we have considered this. And actually, the bottom line is, if we are to implement the new arrangement, how the other places are going to look at us. Because places such as New Zealand and Australia are really very stringent with their control. And so if we in Hong Kong allowed other places to reduce further the quarantine period for certain territories that they have doubts about, then New Zealand and Australia will impose restriction on us. And also at present, there is a large demand for people to bring animals to New Zealand and Australia from Hong Kong as well. And so we want to see how other territories will look at us if we further reduce the quarantine period, because if they do not accept our move to reduce quarantine period, then this will impact on us. And Dr. Chung, would you please take the question on waiting time? And the government actually has adopted three-pronged approach to reduce waiting time. First of all, we have new quarantine facilities. The new Kowloon Animal Control Center has increased the number of quarantine places. And also, we are now encouraging animal organizations such as Hong Kong Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals to increase quarantine places. And also, the quarantine period is now coming down from 4 months to 1, which means that this will cut waiting time by 25%. And we believe that the waiting time for quarantine places will be greatly shortened because of these measures. Have you estimated the result and the outcome of all of these improvement measures? How much will it shorten the waiting time, and how does it compare with the before situation? At present, for dogs, it's 6 to 9 months, and for cats, it's 12 to 18 months. For imported cats and dogs, one of the main sources of imported cats and dogs is the mainland. And if mainland can benefit from Cat 3 system for reduced quarantine time, then definitely it will cut back on queuing time for quarantine places. But exactly how much we will see when it is being implemented.
Next, Mr. Stanley Lee. I really appreciate how the administration is putting in place these timely measures to shorten the quarantine period to only 1 quarter. Just now, you have also introduced regions being categorized as Group 3A and 3B. If there are pets coming from Group 3A, there will be a quarantine period for 30 days. However, is it possible for them to move from Group 3B location to a Group 3A location before they come to Hong Kong? How can we track the places that they have stayed before? Second, I also see that the application needs to come with a health certificate. How do you approve this kind of health certificate? How can you prevent fraud? Is there any approval procedures in place? Third, about the ISO microchip for dogs. If they are not leaving Hong Kong, can they still make use of the old chips? Well, for the pet owners who already own a dog, they might worry that they need to pay for vaccinations. If they choose not to leave Hong Kong, if they are staying in Hong Kong permanently, is it possible for them to leave out the microchip? Is it something that is non-mandatory? Mr. Sid. Thank you, Chairman. Your first question regarding pets staying in Group 3A before coming to Hong Kong, which originate from 3B. Well, we have a requirement. If they are coming from Group 3A, we have to require them to stay in Group 3A for 60 days. So even if they are moving from Group 3B to Group 3A, they need to stay there for 60 days before they can become a pet that is coming from Group 3A. Second, about verifying the certificate, we have two measures in place. First of all dogs needs to become with a microchip. The official veterinarian will have body check for them and the blood test. They will judge the species, the hair, the age, etc., in order to identify if it is the same dog. Third, you have mentioned about the ISO microchip. This amendment that we are proposing, as Mr. Lee have mentioned, in overseas country, if they come to Hong Kong with a ISO microchip, then in this amendment, they are already exempt. They need not to have two microchips. Thank you, Chairman. Any follow-up questions? No, thank you. Next, Mr. Chen Ying. Thank you, Chairman. My first question is about the countries or regions belonging to Group 3B, because nowadays they have to be put on quarantine for 120. And you said that you will only reach out to the countries or regions that is frequently exporting pets to Hong Kong, including mainland China, Macau, and Lithuania. However, I see that pet owners are sourcing pets all over the world. After completing your agreements between mainland China, Macau, and Lithuania, will you also reach out to other countries? Let's say there are countries that is up to the standard of World Organization for Animal Health. Will you also reach out to them so that you can clear out your list of Group 3B? Second, about your quarantine arrangements, you are now encouraging animal welfare organizations to provide such services, and you are now vetting the application of Hong Kong Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and it will be in operation by this year. So how large is the facilities? How many facilities can they provide it, and how do they charge? Is it being monitored, or is just an operation in the private market? Is it possible for them to be differentiation in the provision of services? Dr. Sid. Thank you, Chair. Well, speaking of the regions with rabies, according to World Organization for Animal Health, there are about 180 country members in the majority of the regions, including those coming from the Americas, Australia, Japan. These are all the areas that has no rabies. For Group 3A, that is the countries that has frequent import to Hong Kong, we will reach out to them initiatively. For Group 3B, we are talking about the Africa or Central Asia or even India. These are the areas which has serious pandemic of rabies, and it is not under control. We are in constant monitor of the report of the World Organization for Animal Health. We will see if these locations have put rabies under measure so we can adjust the import requirements accordingly. Our purpose is to safeguard public health and animal health in Hong Kong. As for the charges, speaking of the Hong Kong Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, as far as we know, they are providing around 20 quarantine facilities for cats. The Hong Kong SAR government did not put any regulations on their charges. I believe that they need to be self-financed, so judging to the scale of the facilities, as well as the food provided to the animals, they will sell up the price accordingly. Chairman, I have one follow-up question. If there is no regulations over the charges, my question is, the quarantine arrangement shall be strictly following the requirements of AFCD, right? There shall be no buffer for them. Is that correct? Chairman, well, while the pets are under quarantine, there are certain regulations in place regulating their contact with humans. So we have provided them with some guidelines. So all the executions and the facilities need to follow our guidelines strictly. We will consider cancelling their license if there is any intervention. Any follow-up? No. Thank you. Mr. Yang Wen-kit, thank you. The A4 Alliance has conducted a survey regarding pets. From our survey, people have requested to shorten the quarantine period for pets coming from mainland to 30 days. I'm so glad to receive the good news from the Secretary today. Since we have the top talent scheme and many other talent schemes, there are so many friends coming from mainland China to Hong Kong. They do expect to bring their pets with them. Although you are increasing your facilities to 20 to 30 and allow the Hong Kong Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals to provide quarantine facilities. Well, my question is, would you consider to expand your allowance? Would you allow the private sector to become one of your quarantine facilities so that you can further speed up? Because only by doing so, it is beneficial to the immigration of animals to Hong Kong. You can speed up the whole process by doing so. Second, according to our survey, about 83% of those who are surveyed said that we are lacking an awareness about inclusiveness about animals and humans. Well, we see that the complaints about pets entering food premises has dropped from 304 cases in 2024 to 418 cases in 2024. And I believe that it shows a lack of awareness of the inclusiveness between animal and human. Would you consider a more publicity? Because when I am on the way to Legislative Council, I have met some local members of the community. They express that nowadays, the status of people keeping pets is already very different from the past. Shall we review our policy? You don't need to allow for pets into food premises. However, can we put in place some tiered systems? Taking Kai Tak as an example, the airside shopping mall is all about animal and human inclusivity. Can we allow some food premises there to allow animals because it will help us to reduce the conflict? Secretary, can you talk about your policies regarding pet dogs entering food premises? Well, we actually agree with the directions of animal and human inclusivity because I do love all sorts of animals. As mentioned by Mr. Yang, in Hong Kong, the society is divided on whether to accept such inclusiveness. We do notice that The public has diverse opinions, and some of the opposition voices are quite strong. As you can see, the number of complaints continue to increase. Therefore, I believe that we need to be cautious. Early on, I was in touch with some animal welfare organizations' representatives, and we have set up an alliance. We have reached some consensus. We will collaborate in areas of education and publicity. We will also conduct research about other cities and countries in how to tackle these issues. I hope that we can come up with some suggestions for our next step. Well, as for the private sector operation, I would like to defer it to Dr. Sid. Thank you, Secretary and Mr. Yang. In the first stage, we have invited some welfare organization to take care of animal quarantine. In the future, we will also consider inviting the private sector, including the licensed animal shelter, to apply to become a quarantine facility. I'm not going to raise any question, but I would like to respond to your survey, Mr. Yang. I still don't know how many in the catering businesses would like to allow pets entering the food premises. Of course, we will not turn down any businesses, but we do not want to lose the majority of our business over just one dog. If we cannot strike a balance, well, of course, we know all pet owners would like to bring on their pets when they go to the restaurants, but not every diners love to see pets enjoying meals next to them. Therefore, we need to consider how it can be handled properly. Chairman, I do agree. I think it is time for the government to conduct further research. Thank you. Next, Vice Chair. Thank you, Chairman. First, I would like to read out a passage. In 2025, this is the strategy for people to bring pets to Hong Kong. Many would like to bring cats and dogs to Hong Kong, and there are two ways. First, you can delegate the responsibility to them to bring the pets to Hong Kong. Your pets will arrive your home in the same day. The second is the government procedures that you're proposing here. So my question is, well, we are now trying to change the categorization from Group 3A to 3B. The DAB is not in objection to that. The original intent of this system is to reduce the spread of rabies in Hong Kong, but we see a lot of advertisements of this kind on the social media. They can come by sea or by land through vehicles. They said that they are being vaccinated. It's not that I don't trust them, but if they do not pass through the official system, I still can't believe in them. I'm not sure if that is recent information. In the January on 2025, they have actually captured a number of dogs that did not go through proper quarantine procedures. If there are loopholes existing, then no matter how we discuss here, I mean, we do need a better execution. Otherwise, rabies will always be with us. If we have a complete system, then we have the room to optimize. To reduce the quarantine period to 120 to 30 is appropriate. If we can do even better, the quarantine period can be further shortened. But the question is, how are you going to combat smuggling of pets? Well, do you think it is legal, or it's just a misinformation online? If I were one of the pet owners, I would choose method one. I knew Dr. Sid for a long time. To a certain extent, I know that AFCD and the government, together with the Jockey Club, have done a great job. Horses coming to Hong Kong has a green corridor and they are quarantine-free. Therefore, if we are connecting GBA and Hong Kong, can we take reference from the Jockey Club? Can we also build a green corridor or just delegate one Pacific area? Can we optimize a quarantine area in mainland China? Then they can come to Hong Kong through Green Corridor. Is it a new space? Is it us thinking out of the box so that the pet owners from other areas can have an alternatives? sometimes when they come to Hong Kong, they really don't want to send their cat or dogs to the quarantine because it feels like they're sending them into prison. It is an alternative to them, which is better. Would the SAR government consider opening it up? It is also a new industry. We can even do that in Hong Kong, as mentioned by Mr. Yang.
Regarding technical details, I'll leave them to Dr. Chung. Now, concerning the overall direction, of course, we want to go in to that direction, and that is exactly why we are now significantly optimizing our quarantine regime. And indeed, 120 days actually would encourage smuggling of pets. And now there is a legitimate means for them to import animals into Hong Kong under much shorter quarantine. Then, of course, it would be more viable to animal importers. And, of course, we hope that the AFCT can work even more closely with the Customs and Excise Department to combat pet smuggling even more effectively. As for horses, indeed, the mainland and as well as Jockey Club have done a lot of work in order to create this green channel for horses. There is a large area that is totally free of all other animals except for horses. And so it takes a major work, and it is a very complex project because there needs to be a very long period to prove that within that cordon-off area, it is totally rabies-free before the green channel becomes viable. And so we can see that this is a major, major exercise. And so we want to first of all look at health certificate and vaccination certificate, and with these satisfied, we can relax the regime a little bit. And Dr. Chung can give you further technical details. Thank you, convener, and thank you, Mr. Ho. As for pet smuggling, as the Bureau Secretary has pointed out, we are in very close cooperation with Customs and Excise Department as well as the Police Department, and we've got police canine trying to detect smuggling activities of all kinds, and also we go online very frequently in order to detect agents that are claiming that they can pet smuggled into Hong Kong. And also we are doing undercover operation in order to catch these pet smugglers. And also we encourage and educate the public not to try to buy cheap cats and dogs because they could be smuggled animals. As for quarantine area on mainland for a Jockey Club for horses, indeed this is the largest project of its kind in the world. And if it's to be expanded to include dogs, it's going to take a lot of time. I don't think he has answered my question fully. There are many online advertisements that are actually making very, very false claims. I'd like to know whether he can do anything to combat that and whether that is indeed a very rampant issue. Now, for these fraudulent advertisements, we have indeed written to mainland authorities in order to try to look into these possibly fraudulent advertisements. Madam Chan Ho-yan, first of all, I'd like to thank the administration for creating Cat 3A because it means great reduction to quarantine period. I'm concerned also about smuggled pets, smuggled cats and dogs specifically. As Dr. Chung has pointed out, they are doing something about advertisements with false claims online. I think this is something that needs to be combated very, very severely because this is about smuggling cats and dogs into Hong Kong without proper certification. Now, the second question I'd like to ask about is ISO microchip. The Council actually has discussed this many times about allowing cats and dogs into eating establishments, and the administration has been studying this for over a year. I'd like to know whether you've got any statistics to share with us. Have you done any studies? Have you taken any reference from overseas countries? What possible health risks could be posed by dogs being brought into eating establishments or other pets being brought into eating establishments? Because we really want to balance the interests of pet owners that want to bring the dogs into eating establishments as well as other customers of the eating establishments that might not like it. For instance, in Tsim Sha Tsui, and take West Kowloon Cultural Area for an example, we've got a huge expanse of lawns that are pet inclusive. However, if you buy food or bring food for the dog can only consume the food not on the lawn, but on vehicles only, or at private venues only. Now we are talking about dogs that are properly vaccinated. We are talking about, at the same time, we're talking about including dogs into our community. And the legislation actually prohibits cats and dogs, or only dogs, from entering restaurants. However, if you were to bring in a parrot or a lizard, it is allowed. So I'd like to know, to what extent have you researched on this? If we are talking about open areas like the West Kowloon Cultural District, can you do a license scheme, or can you do a trial scheme so that we can have a genuinely pet-inclusive area where we can strike a correct balance? Now, concerning pet inclusion in our community, I myself personally would like to see even more progress being achieved here. But when we go into the community, we can see that still quite a large number of citizens are resistant to bringing dogs into restaurants. Let me give an example. During the past 5 years, we have seen that the number of complaints is on the increase. In 2022 is 222, 2023 is 304, and 2024 is 418 cases of complaints. And so you can see that number of complaints is on the increase. And we have looked at other cities and what they are doing. And indeed, in many of these cities, restaurants still forbid the presence of dogs. We see that the biggest challenge is, first of all, how to make the majority of our population being receptive towards the concept of pet inclusiveness. And when there is a great acceptance to pet inclusion in our community, I think we would then be ready to do more in this regard. At the same time, we are trying to educate the public more in cooperation with animal welfare organizations. And also, we are constantly looking at other countries and territories to see whether there is anything we can learn from them. As far as I know, there is also a big split of opinion among restaurant operators. It seems that there is no consensus at all. Mr. Yim Kong? Paragraph 16 of the paper says that part of the ISO microchip will not contain the specific area code of Hong Kong. So I just want to confirm the following. Now, concerning this group of microchip, can they be fully traceable? And can you exercise full supervision over these ISO microchips? And also, will the ISO microchips become outdated? And if there is a technical mishap with the ISO microchip, would you really have to really go back to the AVID scheme, fall back on the AVID scheme? Concerning ISO microchip coming into Hong Kong, under the amended legislation as proposed, we are going to allow ISO microchips without Hong Kong area code to be accepted, because this will save the relevant animal from being microchipped once again. As for whether the microchip would become outdated or expired, or would have any computer hiccup. Now, according to 2 to 3 decades worth of experience with AVID microchip, there is a very small likelihood of computer hiccup with reading microchips, because we're talking about scanner and reader of chip, and the chip will have over a dozen digits. in order to encrypt the information on owners as well as animals, and then it will be translated through the scanner and reader. So there is very little likelihood that computer hiccup. So you are saying that we can still exercise full supervision over microchips without Hong Kong area code from ISO. Indeed, we can, no matter where it comes from. Next, Madam Jofi Chang. The paper says that the government has been approaching Cat 3B places to invite them to come under certain assessment. I'd like to know how many replies have you gotten from these territories. Indeed, it's a good thing to reduce 120-day quarantine to 30 days. But at the same time, we have to care about safety. Of course, there is cause for pet inclusion, and also there is a demand for animals to be brought into Greater Bay Area territories and cities over a short period of time, say 1 or 2 weeks of vacation. And if they are still subject to 30-day quarantine because they're from mainland, then it is very, very inconvenient for these pet owners. And so can you really help them in any way? And from 2022 to 2024, the number of pet smuggle cases has increased greatly from 2 to 24. However, the number of animals involved has come down significantly from 200 to 39. I'd like to know whether that was because the pet smuggling activities have become very fragmented instead of wholesale pet smuggle. As for how many Cat 3B countries have been notified by us, our information shows that there are 4 countries from Cat 3B that have been upgraded to Cat 3A. As I mentioned, Macau, Lithuania, as well as mainland have already been upgraded to Cat 3A, and we have heard that Thailand is also making a move, and they are trying to work towards being included in our Cat 3A. And so what we do is we ask 3 countries to give us information if they're interested in being included in our 3A. As for the second question, as for Hong Kong pet owners that are bringing animals into GBA and then bringing them back into Hong Kong over a short period of time, the present legislation does require these pet owners to go through quarantine and fresh application. So if they are only away from Hong Kong for a short period of time, say only for 2 hours, then they still have to be subject to 30 days of quarantine. Indeed, the international practice is that, let me give you an example. Say a plane is carrying horses, and if the plane has to make an emergency landing in a quarantined or a rabies infected area or disease-infected area, then we would treat that particular plane as being eligible for quarantine. So that is international practice. And so if you want to deviate from that, you really have to make a lot of preparation before you can do that. As for pet smuggling, it is very difficult to infer from the statistics as to whether pet smuggling has become fragmented. If you look at the number of smuggled cases, indeed, it has come down very significantly. Why is it that in 2022, the number of animals being smuggled was very large? Was probably because of the pandemic, and a lot of quarantine measures have been suspended. And so pet owners or certain pet smuggling agents would take the opportunity in order to bring animals into Hong Kong. But that is only my speculation.
Mr. Lam Man Kwong, thank you, Chair. I'm glad to know that mainland China will be in Group 3A so that the quarantine period can be shortened. I do support that. In fact, if we are to maintain our existing good reputations regarding animal quarantines, I think our priority is to tackle pet smuggling. As colleagues and administration mentioned, we need to strengthen combating pet smuggling because we can find such information so easily on social media. So my questions are two-part. First, can we do better publicity? Because under the Labor and Welfare Bureau, there is an information platform for the incoming talents. Can we include more information there? And can we also take the initiative online? Let's say we see this kind of misinformation or suspected smuggling cases. Well, I believe that the enforcement have their official social media accounts. Is it possible for you to leave a comment there? Well, but of course, the account owner can always delete it, but it is a sign of warning. Can you take one step forward in this regard? My second question is about pets entering food premises. Previously, the A4 Alliance has conducted a survey, and thank you, Chairman, because you have told us that the catering business is quite diverse in this regard. But my question is, can we offer them a tier system? If we do know that such food premises can allow dogs, and such policy can bring in more business. It can also help promote pet inclusivity and to strengthen community connectivity. So rather than just seeing it black and white, can we allow for a transition period? Can we allow food premises to make their own choice under supervision? I know that as we ask questions, we do understand that we are in a period of transition. Can we allow for more changes? Well, my take on this is that I don't believe it because businesses is so tough right now. If we allow for pet dogs coming in, if this is going to increase our business, I think I would be receiving a lot of requests from my sector, and I will be taking the initiative to talk to the secretary, because the fact is, in reality, we don't see such trend coming. Dr. Sid, can you talk about smuggling? Would it help to conduct more decoy operation, or is it more effective for us to do it on Facebook? Thank you, Chairman. In regards of pet smuggling, as mentioned, we have conducted joint operation with the police force, AFCD, as well as Custom and Exercise Department. We took the initiative to conduct such joint combat operation. And also, we are strengthening our publicity. For instance, on the website of AFCD, we will invite some ambassadors to talk about illegal pet smuggling when they talk about animal welfare. On the KMB bus and also the train going to mainland China, we will put a lot of advertisement there, warning people not to bring in dogs casually. At different control points, there are also posters telling people if you bring in dogs without house certificate, it will be an illegal activity. We also have an education team. This team contains a detector dog as well. They will go on school campuses teaching students from a young age so that they will not purchase illegal pets. We are also going to collaborate with the Consumers Council. We will roll out an online campaign warning people not to believe in any advertisement online and purchase illegal pets. Next, Mr. Chu Kwok Kang. Thank you, Chairman. I want to learn more about the quarantine facilities. At the moment, both the Kowloon and Hong Kong Animal Management Center, I would like to know the utility rate. Since the Kowloon Animal Management Center will be in operation in May, together with the Hong Kong Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. How much demand do you expect to be met by them? Do we need to further increase our capacity in order to cater for the increased demand? Second, according to the government statistics last year, as Ms. Chen Wing-yan has rightly pointed it out, cases of cats and dogs involving illegal importation has increased, while the cases has increased while the numbers have decreased. It shows that maybe the smuggling model has moved from a massive ways to a more divided manner in order to sway away from your detection of the enforcement. Do you have such observation? Targeting this kind of diverse and small-scale smuggling, how would the AFCD, CED, and Hong Kong Police Force going to adjust your enforcement? Dr. Sit, regarding the quarantine policy, in our new Kowloon Bay Animal Welfare Complex building, we are increasing our quarantine facilities to around 20 to around 30. As mentioned, we will also work together with the Hong Kong Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals in order to increase our quarantine facilities. And since we are also shortening the quarantine period by to a quarter, from 120 to 30, simply by calculations, you know that the circulation of our quarantine facilities will be speeded up. We can speed up by 3 times or even more. We hope that by doing so, we can reduce the waiting time of the general public. As for the reduced case of smuggling, is it a reflection of some other ways of doing so? I don't think I am in the right position to speculate on this. If the number of cases is reducing, it is possible that the general public is understanding the seriousness of smuggling, therefore they no longer conduct business with them. That could be one reason. Anyway, we will continue to work with the Customs and Excise Department and the Hong Kong Police Force to strengthen our combating efforts. Any follow-up? No, thank you. Next, Ms. Lam So White. Thank you, Chairman. I am not a member to this panel, but I am very much concerned about the quarantine arrangement of cats and dogs as well as the pet-friendly policy. I would like to express my support of the shortening of quarantine period to 30 days. I do have some practical questions and some case that I would like to share with you. For instance, on Taobao, you can actually buy a corgi and it can deliver to a certain location and it's charging you $7,000 and it is going to be a door-to-door delivery. It will charge you $8,000. If I purchase it in Mong Kok, it will cost me $20,000. Actually, there are a lot of cats and dogs coming into Hong Kong illegally. Will we consider increasing the penalty for both the buyer and the seller? Well, it claims that there are animal patrol team who are turning a blind eye to this kind of illegal importation because with and without a microchip, they can still apply for license. Well, for these kind of cats and dogs, they are coming from nowhere. Should we have a system in place forbidding them from receiving a license? By doing so, you can protect the animal traders because they're doing things in a legal manner. There are also people migrating to Hong Kong. If they keep a pets in mainland China, then in the black market, you can simply pay those people 1,500 or 2,000, then they can help you to bring your pets to Hong Kong. How are you going to penalize this kind of black market? Secretary. Thank you. As Dr. Sit has mentioned, we will do this in a multi-pronged approach. First, we will reduce our quarantine period, because it is more acceptable. We are making the legal approach more acceptable. I believe that it will be helpful in reducing smuggling. On the other hand, AFCD is not just working with the CED at the control point. They are also doing inspections online. If we find any suspicious website, if it is a local website, then of course we will have an enforcement operation in Hong Kong. If it is in mainland China, we will also connect with the relevant departments in mainland China so that we can put down those websites. Or if those advertisements is targeting in Hong Kong, then we will put on some warning signs there, and we will also introduce the law to the audience of those websites. As for those that do not have microchip, it is rather a technical question. I would like to defer it to Dr. Sid. Thank you, Ms. Lam. According to Hong Kong legislation, all the dogs are required to be licensed if they age 5 months or above. For all pet shops in Hong Kong, we also require them to sell cats and dogs with microchip provided by AFCD. They also need to be properly vaccinated before they are on sale. If members of public are buying dogs without microchip or vaccination, then they are already buying from an illegal business. Chairman, some pet owners shared with me that they cannot inject microchip afterwards. Is it something common? How do you control? Because the backgrounds are unknown. Sometimes when we're on the promenade, there will be signs of adopting dogs and selling dogs. You really don't know where they're coming from. Will there be a licensing system to support these kind of cats and dogs that are coming from nowhere? Dr. Sid. Thank you, Chair and Ms. Lam. I would like to take dogs as an example, because all dogs in Hong Kong needs to be licensed. All dogs aged 5 months or above needs to be licensed, because when the dogs are 5 months or above, when we look at their teeth, we will know how old they are simply by doing a dental check. If they are not licensed, according to Section 20, Cap 421, if they do not apply for license, they are already in contravention of the law, and the penalty will be 10,000 Hong Kong dollars. According to our previous statistics, actually we did some outsourcing of survey. I think from 80 to 90% of dogs are already licensed at appropriate age. Well, Ms. Lam, you have mentioned there are dogs that can be microchipped afterwards. Because if the dogs has come to us, we can microchip them. We will not turn them down just because they are coming without a microchip. The legislature is actually encouraging the general public to bring the dogs for microchip. With a microchip, in the future, we will be able to trace them through a computer scan and understand that they are already coming with a license by scanning their microchip. The Vice Chairman has a second round of questions. Can you complete it within 1 minute? Just an opinion. First of all, thank you for the administration. As Ms. Lam has mentioned, sales channels are quite problematic. In the society, everything is varied. I think we need to take care of the smuggling activities so that we can safeguard our reputation as a rabies-free region. I also believe that we need to support proper business, but still we encourage people to adopt pets. All adoption procedures should be supervised by the government. I believe that the government also need to consider about the green corridor. I'm not pushing you to do it immediately. Well, but at least be more open-minded. Perhaps you can attempt to do that. Well, I don't believe that next to the horse farm in Chongfa, I don't believe that there is no dogs there, and that is a farm operated by Jockey Club. Perhaps we can put together some cross-boundary services. How about have some conversation with mainland China so that it would be more convenient for dogs to come into Hong Kong?
I don't think that's an issue for the Jockey Club. We were talking about the policy of the state. Dr. Chung, do you have any response? Or the Bureau Secretary? Indeed, on an ongoing basis, we are seeking to optimize our regime, whether it's pet inclusion or optimization of our quarantine arrangements. We continue to look for room for improvement. And the deputy conveners' ideas, actually, we're already looking into them. It's only that there are certain difficulties that have to be overcome first. Okay, we thank the officials for their contribution. We now move on to the next item on the agenda: proposed creation of a time-limited supernumerary directorate post in the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department for overseeing private columbaria and planning of municipal infrastructure projects. It's paper 2025/05. Let's get the officials to come in. So this has to do with staff establishment, and all members of the council are invited to come along to join in the discussion. And if you wish to speak, please press the button in front of you. Bureau Secretary, I understand that you do not have a PowerPoint presentation for us, and so please walk us through the paper briefly so that we have more time for discussion. Thank you. The two directorate posts under PCAO at D3 and D2 will expire on July 15th, 2025. And we're now proposing that Senior Principal Executive Officer, Directorate for Pay Scale 2 post to be created for a period of 3 periods. And apart from overseeing PCAO, this officer will also look at municipal infrastructure projects. PCAO and Planning and Development Section, P&DS, under the FEHD are under 2 separate branches at present. Having reviewed the operational needs and manpower resources of the office section, the FHD proposes to consolidate the work of the 2 office sections by creating a time-limited supernumerary directorate post to take up the duties of current 2 time-limited supernumerary directorate posts in PCAO, and also to absorb the relevant planning and development work under the other Assistant Director Administration ADA, so as to achieve an overall manpower savings at the directorate level and enhance work efficiency. In the coming few years, the PCAO still has a lot of work to do, and the nature of the task is very, very complex. And that is why we need a directorate officer to oversee the situation, including ongoing licensing work and also supervision over private columbaria, and also the treatment of ashes by columbaria, and also to take enforcement action. And also to execute legislative amendments under the 224 Amendment Ordinance for columbaria. And because of the complexity of the nature of work involved, we really need to create this post. And also municipal infrastructure projects are also very varied and also very complex, including crematorium and also memorial gardens and refuse collection points and so on and so forth. There are over 2,000 such facilities. And the FEHT has to continue to upkeep such facilities and to continue to upgrade them. And also new municipal infrastructure projects have to come on stream to meet new demands. Towards the end of 2024, there are 330 projects that are underway, and including relocation of major food facilities, and also at Watershed, creating a new columbaria and also crematorium, and also to upgrade and revamp public toilets. And FEHD also will need to continue to monitor the future manpower demand to make sure that resources are judiciously deployed. And we hope that you will support us. And if you are supportive, then we propose that this be put before the Establishment Subcommittee as well as the PW and the Finance Committee for final approval. And we are happy to answer whatever questions you may have. We've got a lot of time, actually, for this item, and only 4 members so far have signed up to speak. They are Madam Chen Hoi-yan and Mr. Tony Che and Mr. Benson Look, as well as Mr. Yim Kong. And so I'm not going to manage time very strictly so that you have ample time for discussion. You will be given 5 minutes. So that is a very clear presentation already. You are merging the 2 posts into 1. I support this. And Director Chang actually has faced varying licensing issues and has met the challenges with flying colors, without support, of course. And the director has also given us very clear explanation for what has been done. But what I want to know is this: for private columbarium, indeed, there is an issue with enforcement, because after they've been licensed, you have to see whether they are operating legitimately in accordance with their licenses, because some of them have been frozen, and also there is the issue of public columbarium that you have to manage, and also you have to manage municipal infrastructure projects. So I'd like to know, for this new directorate officer, exactly how large is the relevant establishment? I don't want to see the establishment being impacted on, leading to an impact on overall efficiency. Recently, we have seen that municipal infrastructure projects that have to do with people's livelihood have attracted a lot of complaints and adverse comments. So now, one directorate officer is to oversee all of these. So is it really a very good idea to have only one directorate officer, and whether this directorate officer is supported fully by its supporting staff establishment? I think this member has made a very valid comment. Indeed, there are 5 units that this directorate officer has to look at, including finance supervision unit, as well as a licensing unit and enforcement unit, and so on and so forth. As for planning and development section, in future, it will also come under this directorate officer. And also certain coordination and planning work has to be done from that source. Supporting staff, including 22 non-directorate staff officers. Now, that's for PCAO. And under the planning and development section, 25 non-directorate officers will form the supporting staff. So we will maintain this level of manpower in support of the directorate officer. And the directorate officer will be responsible for supervising these 2 teams of officers in support of the directorate officer. We believe that there is sufficient manpower. Now, as for the municipal infrastructure project stream, according to you, many projects actually will come under this directorate officer. I'd like to know what is the staff establishment in support of that. There are 25 of them in the staff complement. And relevant projects have been in operation for the past coming few years, and they will continue on for the coming few years. And so we will maintain the staff establishment in support of the directorate officer. Mr. Tony Che. Looking at the workload and also adjusting manpower resources in accordance with the latest prevailing condition is something that we should all support, of course. But this is a time-limited post, and it is a result of the merging of two previous posts. And it will be subject to a 3-year time limit. In principle, it's okay. But what I want the Bureau to explain is this. When reviewing the workload in question, as my colleague has already pointed out, have you also considered the workload for non-directorate staff in support of the directorate officer? You have already optimize the directorate staff level. What about the non-directorate staff level? Can you also optimize it? Secondly, of course, there are many projects under the municipal infrastructure stream, but not all projects are being commissioned at the same time. For instance, for public toilets, they have actually been underway for a certain period of time because in 2019 already there were 110 such projects. So in the coming 3 years, how many of these projects still remain? Because many of these projects actually are spanning more than 3 years. So this post is only for 3 years. What's going to happen after 3 years, after this post has expired? Thirdly, we are now facing fiscal budget, and some of the projects might be postponed, and that would, of course, have an impact on the workload. And so does it have any impact on your thinking? Indeed, we continue to monitor the situation very closely. At the Special Finance Committee, we have already mentioned that during the past 3 years, there has been reduction in staff size for FEHD. And in accordance with the prevailing situation, for instance, for workload for PCAO, we will monitor the situation to see whether after a period of time its work becomes normalized and whether manpower provision should once again be adjusted. And as for municipal infrastructure projects, we will look at the progress of various projects, and also we will look at latest social demand with a view to fine-tuning staff level for directorate as well as non-directorate officers. As for planning and development work for municipal infrastructure project, at present there are 330 projects waiting to be followed up by this new directorate officer. And having said that, there are several major scale projects that will have to tie in with the East in East Out and West in West Out regime for fresh food importation, because we need to move the service from Man Kam To to Hung Yuen Wai. And also at Wah Hop Shek, we're going to build 10 new crematorium. And for Wah Hop Shek, we also have phases 2 and 3, new columbarium projects and also relevant road projects. And as mentioned, we are in the process of revamping our public toilets because in the coming few years, actually we have already begun doing this. We still have over 400 public toilets to be revamped in the coming few years. So we believe that the workload for this new directorate officer is quite sufficient in the coming few years, but we will keep the situation and review in accordance with later situation. Paragraph 14 mentions non-directorate officers, and 62 of them are at PCAO. Now, if you're talking about municipal infrastructure projects, once again, number of projects is very large, but with only 25 supporting staff members. if columbarium-related work is normalized, is it possible for you to further fine-tune the provision of manpower? Because it seems that for municipal infrastructure projects, the number of projects is really quite large. And it seems that right now, the proportion in terms of manpower provision is quite out of sync with that of PCAO. Can you let the public know how exactly did you arrive at the staff size of 25?
Actually, it depends on the job nature. At the PCAO, there are health inspectors as well as other supporting staff. As for the planning and development section, we have a lot of administrative officers and related staff. As previously mentioned, be it in the past and the future, we will closely monitor the size of our team. We will monitor both the directorate and non-directorate grade staff. At the Special Financial Committee, we also report about the cut of staff. In the latest report, we will also give you a more detailed explanation about the establishment. Any follow-up questions? No. Next, Mr. Benson Look. Thank you, Chairman. This proposal is to combine 2 posts into 1. On one hand, the peak of workload of PCAO has already passed, so it is too much with the reality. Second, it is also a good use of public resources. I am rather concerned about the situation of PCAO. First of all, in paragraph 4, up till the end of last month, the PCAO has rejected a total of 33 columbaria who failed to meet the requirements of the ordinance. So how many people, how many members of public are being affected by that? Second, in paragraph 6, we can see that for the columbaria who are substandard, the administration will set up a guidelines of the procedures of ash disposal. I trust that if there needs to be disposal of ashes, I believe that the families are very much concerned with the procedures. We know that that is a provision of guidelines on the prescribed ash disposal procedures. Can you give us more details about that? Third, in 2024, the private columbaria ordinance amendments has been largely completed, but there are still operators who are expressing their concerns. Since the town planning board have reduced their application, they are failed to apply for exemption. Mr. Lok, we are talking about having a post. We are not talking about the policy of private columbaria. I have finished my question. I think you need to plan your questions to be more relevant, but I will allow the administration to reply to your questions. But as you ask, I think you need to be more careful. Is this director going to take care of this policy? I think when you ask questions, you need to be more cautious. Undersecretary, I would like to defer the question about the guidelines and procedures to food and environmental hygiene development. I would like to respond to you about the questions. As you mentioned in paragraph 4, there are 33 applications that we refused. There are still about 18 of them who have withdrawn their application. So the ashes involved are around 8,800. According to the bill of the ordinance, I know that members of the council are concerned about the private columbaria. In our previous discussion of the ordinance, we allowed for columbaria who are applying for the license because they failed to be exempt. We are trying to find a way out for them. Is it possible for them to apply for exemption? Among the 48 of them, 38 of them can have these options. As the remaining ones, 3 of them are located in some highly dense residential area. Or because we need to concerns the public interest as well as the residents nearby. So the remaining is only 7 of them, and the number of niche is not large. I would like to defer the next questions to the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department to the guidelines on procedures. Thank you for the question. I would like to talk more about the prescribed ash disposal procedures. According to legislature, if the columbaria is out of business, it might be voluntarily closing down, or they're closing down because they are rejected by the PCAO. Anyhow, the operators has the obligations to dispose the ash properly. We have prescribed procedures. They need to have a no less than 1 year period of application. What does that mean? For a certain period of time, the related persons and family shall be allowed to collect the ash. In that period of time, they need to write letters, issue notifications, and put up a note on newspaper so that the related party are aware that they need to come and take care of the ash. Within this period of time, the family can come to this columbarium that is already closed to collect the ash. During the COVID, many are stuck overseas and failed to come back. Those columbaria who are out of business will apply for an extension of this period to 2 to 3 years. In the spirit of providing convenience to the family members to collect the ash, we will try our best to accommodate their application for extension. Towards the last stage, let's say some ash are being collected, but there's still a number of them that are unclaimed. According to the law, if they have completed the collection period, the unclaimed ash can be deferred to the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department because we have some temporary areas for the ash. We will keep it for a period of time, and we will also make announcement on the website. Actually, there are family members that reach out to us to collect the ash. This is the gist of the procedures. So it is the responsibility of the 1+25. Yes, it is the enforcement unit. The enforcement unit will be in charge of that. Next, Mr. Yim Kong. Thank you, Chairman. I think the management regime is changed slightly. However, under the financial pressure that we have, there are still too many tiers in our management. It is still not streamlined enough. For instance, under the deputy director, there are 3 assistant directors. For each assistant director, they will only take care of 1 unit. Under the unit, if there is a principal officer, then I do believe that there are way too many tiers of management. The 2 assistant directors are in charge of the planning and development section, as well as the administration section. As we can understand, you are actually talking about human resources and administration. In a corporate, administration and HR are normally being put in one department. In this case, if the 3 assistant director can merge the 3 sections under one deputy director, then we can free one deputy director to take care of the management of columbaria. That is the post that you are applying for now. Is it possible for the administration to further review? Can you further streamline your structure? I believe you can consider that because it is a norm for corporates to merge 2 departments into 2. With this logic, well, as we discussed, past management involve a lot of businesses. Do you have to set up an assistant director to take care of that? Well, since today we are talking about the post, normally I will ask members if you agree to submit it to the establishment committee. As I heard from Mr. Im Kong, he seems to have some doubts. I would like to defer to the administration and you can decide later. Thank you, Chairman. And Mr. Im Kong? Mr. Im is very detail-minded when reading the papers. We have a deputy director for administration and 3 deputy directors who are in charge of enforcement. We also have 1 director that is taking care of the establishment and development. Mr. Im is concerned that maybe we can merge the sections together. First of all, the Deputy Director, Administration. He has a huge scope of work, including HR, administration, ethics, discipline of the staff, logistics, IT management, and security. You have to understand that the FEHD is a huge department. And it has a very complicated organization structure. For Operation Director 1, 2, 3, they also have huge workload. For each operation section, let's say Operation 1, they have to oversee all outlying islands as well as Hong Kong Island. For Operation 2, Kowloon. Operations 3, new territories, total of 8 districts. These assistant directors also need to focus on different actual work of FEHD. For Operation 1, they need to focus on food business license, wine license, or the works of different licensing appeal board. For Operation Director 2, if there are any issues with the public market, Hawkers Bazaar, New Year's Eve Bazaar, if any of them complain all the way to the appeal board, they need to respond to that. For Director Operations 3, he is in charge of intelligence, the cleanliness, the butcher's office. Well, as for the establishment development, since we have 3 different tiers under FEHD, he needs to strategize over the whole organization. They also need to take care of the services offered by the cemetery, crematoria, etc. He also oversees the outsourcing policy and to support the investigation and the appraisals within the department. He is also in charge of market development. Well, that particular assistant director will look at the modernization of public market as well as new public market. If you remember, in the last couple of months, we are in touch with members of the councils because we have received a lot of opinions about the future policies regarding public market. This particular director needs to analyze all that and to strategize. Therefore, all the assistant directors under FEHD are already heavily loaded, so it is difficult for them to take on any further positions. Well, I think it can be submitted to the established subcommittee. You don't object it, right? But you don't fully support it. Yeah, perhaps you can further consider. I believe that the administration will take into considerations what you have shared. Mr. Tan Ka-Pyu? Well, as an outsider, the general public has continued demand towards the columbaria, but it is not making news headline unlike a decade ago. There are a lot of private columbaria who are violating the law just to profitize, but no longer it is happening as a common trend. The administration is also providing public columbaria and a diversified ways of conducting burial. Under these circumstances, what is the objective of creating this time-limited supernumerary directorate post? If we approve it, will this post be cancelled after taking care of what they have on hand? Or you say that because of aging population, we are expecting huge demand of such services. And I can't tell for sure if it is a one-time application. What is your take, Under Secretary? What is the continuity of this post? Are they here to take care of the issues that occurred a decade ago? Or is it related to the aging population in Hong Kong? Do you expect that these facilities are closely related to the Asian population in Hong Kong? As this issue continues, we will need this post in future. We want to hear from you on this. Second,
simultaneously, we are in the process of amending legislation for management of private columbaria. After the amendment has gone through, I'd like to know what kind of impact it will have on the creation of this new directorate post. Thank you, member, for your question. This particular post, as we have mentioned, is responsible for PCAO. And the numbers that we have quoted include venues that have already been licensed and others that have been issued a letter of exemption. Still, 76 of the columbaria have been given approval in principle, meaning that they still need to take certain actions towards finally getting licensed. And starting from 2026 to 2029, these venues will have completed their remedial actions, and then the PCAO will have to look at their applications. And that is why the PCAO work in this regard will continue. And as for the passage of the legislative amendment, at present, certain columbaria that are not old enough, therefore are not qualified for letter of exemption or license, we still need to deal with the ashes that come out of these out-of-commissioned columbaria. And with the passage of legislative amendments, 38 of these columbaria are still eligible for applying for letter of exemption, and that's why PCAO will need to process their applications. As for planning and development section, as we have presented in the coming few years, we need to move the fresh food facilities from Mankamto to Hung Yuen Wai, and also we need to build a new crematorium and expanded columbaria in Wahab Shack, and also relevant road networks, and also we need to revamp public toilets, and so on and so forth. And that is why in the coming few years, the directorate post as created will have its work cut out for it. As I said, we'll continue to look at provision of manpower level to match it with prevailing situation and its demand. And then we'll come back to LegCo in due course to see how are we going to, if at all, fine-tune the manpower level in 3 years' time. Indeed, I support this supernumerary post because of the legacy issue that has been around for over a decade. But indeed, we are talking about tackling a legacy issue. And so, can you tell me this new directorate post is to deal with the problem that is being left behind in time, or is it that certain columbaria-related infrastructure projects in the future will still need to be dealt with by this directorate post, because our elderly population means that there will be continuing demand for columbarium. Let me add a few words. As the deputy director has pointed out, we are in the process of amending the legislation, and we anticipate its passage, and it will give us flexibility in dealing with cases of applications that are pending. And also, it will increase our planning ability and enforcement ability. And after the amendment of legislation, we need to revise the manpower level in order to support the new regime. And also, there are applications set up pending processing. And so this time-limited post is, of course, first of all, responsible for additional workload in the coming 2 to 3 years, and it is time limited. And that is why at the directorate level, we need to maintain a directorate officer. As for municipal infrastructure projects, indeed, they have all along been around. There are many of them, but in the coming 2 to 3 years, there are several major scale projects that are entering its critical development period, and that is why we need supervision from a directorate officer. So in the short term, indeed, certain workload from the past will need to be supervised by this directorate officer. But municipal infrastructure continues to evolve in terms of demand. So we'll continue to monitor the situation to look at the progress of PCAO as well as municipal infrastructure projects to see how, if at all, we need to fine-tune the manpower provision at the directorate and non-directorate level. Now, I'm the last speaker. But before I make my comments, I just want to see whether there are any members that actually are in objection to this item being put before ESC as well as FC. So, Mr. Tang Kapil, you represent the Trade Unions Federation, and Mr. Tony Chan, Benson Luke, and Chan Ho Yan, and Stephen Ho, and no one is in objection to ESC and FC being requested to look at this item, right? Okay, so now my comments. This is about merging of two posts. But the paper also says that the major task for this new directorate post is to oversee the work of PCAO. And paragraph 8, in a very strange manner, says that this is a temporary post. However, you tasked it also with development and planning session, which is responsible looking and supervising the operation of ongoing infrastructural projects as well as infrastructure projects being in the pipeline, including over 10,000 public toilets and also many other infrastructural projects. So, of course, after the 3 years, you can always come back to us to ask for renewal of this post. But if you fail to renew this post, then in paragraph 13 says that this work will then be left to the original assistant director post, which then will overload its responsibilities. So if in 3 years' time you fail to renew this post, how are you going to deal with the workload? I think this time, we are going to give you a green light for this 3-year post. But this is supernumerary, and so after 3 years, if we fail to renew or give you approval for renewing the post, how are you going to handle the handover of work? Now for paragraph 8. Now for these facilities, the demand for them is at various stages. For instance, for improvement to RCP, or the building of new columbaria, or the reprovisioning of a crematorium, these projects are at different stages in terms of progress. And so they don't need to be dealt with all at the same time. These projects will go on at varying paces and will be at different stages of development. And as has been mentioned, a lot of this work is ongoing. If in 3 years' time, unfortunately, we fail to renew it, but of course, we first of all have to look at whether we need to renew it first. And of course, that would be dependent on the then fiscal situation of the government. And the financial budget has already pointed out that in the future, there will be certain policy being implemented to limit staff establishment. And so we have to look at the actual demand for work and also manpower level, and whether in due course, technologically, there will be fresh options for us to streamline our manpower level. As I said, we'll continue to monitor the situation very closely in the coming few years, and at opportune time, we will look at the provision of manpower at directorate and non-directorate level. And of course, we will keep the Legislative Council in the loop before we come to any decision. Now, first of all, for supernumerary posts, in other words, temporary posts, it should be for temporary work. But for RCPs and also for public toilets, now there are 881 public toilets because they may need to be revamped every decade. And so this is ongoing work, and we need a very stable and permanent post to oversee such work. Now, if indeed you fail to renew this post in 3 years' time, and the work that needs then to be done has to be dealt with by existing staff within the existing establishment, that is not supernumerary, then this would be a solution that is quite abnormal. Of course, you may say that from your point of view, it is nothing out of the extraordinary, but I still think that this is something that is quite strange. I just want to know, what are you going to do after 3 years? I hope that you can pay close attention to this particular fact, because for temporary work, you should create temporary posts, and temporary posts are for temporary work. And because this time, it seems that this temporary post also is responsible for certain permanent or ongoing projects. And so that is really something that is off here. Indeed, we'll keep this in mind. And also, some of us have pointed out that you need to really think about further making the establishment even leaner. Because there are over 1,000 posts that have not yet been filled, and there are posts that are really in demand, and there are posts that are being filled on a temporary basis. And in any case, I'm not really very totally happy with paragraph 8, because you really need to have a consistent policy and a stable post for ongoing work. Right, if there are no further comments, we move on to AOB. And I just want to sum up that none of us object to you putting this before ESC and FC, but I hope that you can make certain points even clearer so that ESC has and FC have an easier time looking into this item. Thank you.